The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble floors of Thornwick Palace as Queen Isabella of Valdoria prepared for her weekly visit to the Children's Hospital. At 62, she had maintained the same routine for over 15 years, never missing her Thursday appointments with the young patients who eagerly awaited her arrival. Captain Marcus Thompson stood at attention near the palace's main security checkpoint, his trained eyes scanning every detail of the bustling morning preparations. As head of the Royal Protection Unit, Marcus had served the crown for 23 years, earning his position through unwavering dedication and a spotless record. His team respected him and the royal family trusted him completely. The security protocols at Thornwick Palace were among the most advanced in the world. Every person entering or leaving the premises, regardless of their status, underwent thorough screening. Even Queen Isabella herself submitted to these procedures without complaint, understanding that security measures protected not only her, but everyone around her. As the Queen approached the checkpoint, Marcus noticed her favorite burgundy leather handbag clutched in her right hand. It was the same bag she carried on most public engagements, a gift from her late mother that had become something of a trademark. The Queen's lady-in-waiting, Mrs. Adelaide Foster, walked beside her, carrying additional items needed for the hospital visit. "Good morning, Your Majesty," Marcus said with a respectful bow. "I trust you're ready for your visit to St. Catherine's Hospital." Queen Isabella smiled warmly. "Indeed, Captain Thompson. The children are expecting me, and I have some special gifts for them today." She gestured toward her handbag. "I hope the security screening won't take too long. I know how much the little ones look forward to our time together." Routine security procedure began as it always did. Mrs. Foster placed her items on the scanning table while the Queen prepared to hand over her handbag. The X-ray machine hummed quietly as it processed each item, its sophisticated technology designed to detect any potential threats or irregularities. Marcus watched the screen intently, his trained eye examining every shape and shadow that appeared. Years of experience had taught him to spot even the smallest anomalies. The Queen's bag contained the usual items he had seen countless times before: her reading glasses, a small silver compact, breath mints tissues, and what appeared to be several small wrapped packages intended for the children. But today, something was different. As the image of the Queen's handbag appeared on the screen, Marcus noticed an unusual shape nestled among the familiar objects. It was small, roughly rectangular, and appeared to be made of metal. The density and configuration didn't match any of the items he typically saw in the Queen's personal belongings. Marcus felt his heart rate increase slightly, though his expression remained perfectly composed. In his years of service, he had encountered various situations, but finding something unexpected in the Queen's personal effects was unprecedented. His training kicked in immediately, reminding him that protocol must be followed regardless of who was being screened. "Your Majesty," Marcus said carefully, maintaining his professional tone, "I need to conduct a more detailed inspection of your handbag today. It's purely routine, but I've noticed something that requires closer examination." Queen Isabella raised an eyebrow, showing mild curiosity rather than concern. "Of course, Captain. Please do whatever is necessary. Security is paramount, and I wouldn't want to compromise anyone's safety." Mrs. Foster looked slightly puzzled but remained silent, knowing that security procedures were not to be questioned. The other staff members in the area continued their duties, though Marcus noticed a few curious glances in their direction. With steady hands, Marcus carefully opened the Queen's handbag and began removing items one by one. Each object was exactly what he expected until his fingers closed around something cold and metallic. As he lifted it from the bag, his breath caught in his throat. In his hand was a small, sophisticated listening device. The object was no larger than a matchbox, but Marcus immediately recognized its design. It was a high-end surveillance tool, the kind used by intelligence agencies and professional investigators. The device was sleek, expensive, and definitely not something that belonged in a Queen's handbag. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Marcus stared at the device, his mind racing through possibilities and protocols. Queen Isabella watched his expression change, her own face reflecting growing concern as she realized something was seriously wrong. "Captain Thompson," the Queen said quietly, "what exactly have you found?" Marcus looked up, meeting her eyes directly. In over 2 decades of service, he had never faced a situation quite like this. The Queen's expression showed genuine confusion and worry, not the guilt or panic he might expect from someone caught with contraband. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "I've discovered what appears to be a listening device in your personal belongings. I need to follow protocol and investigate this matter immediately." The Queen's face went pale and she took a small step backward. "A listening device? Captain, I have absolutely no idea how such a thing could have gotten into my bag." "This is impossible," Mrs. Foster gasped audibly, her hand flying to her chest. "Your Majesty, this must be some kind of mistake." "Surely there's an explanation." Marcus felt the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. As head of security, he had a duty to investigate any potential security breach regardless of who was involved. But this was Queen Isabella, a woman he had served loyally for years, someone he deeply respected and trusted. The implications of finding surveillance equipment in the Queen's possession were staggering. It could suggest espionage, blackmail, or any number of serious security threats. Yet looking at the Queen's shocked expression, Marcus found it difficult to believe she had any knowledge of the device. His training told him to treat this as a serious security breach and follow standard protocols immediately. But his instincts, honed through years of experience, suggested that there was much more to this situation than met the eye. Marcus quickly activated the palace's security alert system, sending a discreet signal to his deputy, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, who was monitoring operations from the central command room. Within moments, she appeared at the checkpoint, her expression serious but controlled. "Lieutenant Chen, please escort Her Majesty to the blue drawing room," Marcus instructed quietly. "Ensure complete privacy and begin preliminary security measures. I'll join you shortly." Queen Isabella maintained her composure despite the obvious distress in her eyes. "Captain Thompson, I want to cooperate fully with your investigation. However, I must insist that this matter be handled with the utmost discretion. The reputation of the Crown cannot be compromised by unfounded suspicions." "I understand completely, Your Majesty," Marcus replied. "My team and I will conduct this investigation with absolute professionalism and confidentiality." As Lieutenant Chen escorted the Queen away, Mrs. Foster remained behind, wringing her hands nervously. "Captain, surely you don't suspect Her Majesty of any wrongdoing?" "This is preposterous. Queen Isabella is the most honorable person I know." Marcus studied the listening device more carefully, noting its sophisticated design and compact construction. It was definitely professional-grade equipment, not something available to the general public. The device showed no obvious manufacturer markings, suggesting it might be custom-made or produced by a specialized security company. "Mrs. Foster," he said carefully, "I need you to think very carefully about the Queen's activities over the past few days. Has anyone had access to her handbag? Has she met with anyone unusual? Or visited any locations outside her normal routine?" The lady-in-waiting paused, considering the question seriously. "Let me think. Yesterday, the Queen attended a charity luncheon at the Grand Metropolitan Hotel. She also had a private meeting with the Prime Minister's wife, Lady Catherine Westbrook. Oh, and she visited her personal physician, Dr. Margaret Holloway, for her routine checkup." Marcus made mental notes of each location and person mentioned. Any of these interactions could have provided an opportunity for someone to plant the device. But the question remained. Who would want to spy on Queen Isabella and why? Was her handbag ever out of her sight during these visits? Marcus asked. Mrs. Foster thought for a moment. At the charity luncheon, she placed her bag on the table next to her seat. There were perhaps 40 people in attendance, including several I didn't recognize. During her meeting with Lady Westbrook, they had tea in the palace gardens, and the Queen set her bag on a bench while they walked around the rose garden. This information troubled Marcus. The charity luncheon would have provided numerous opportunities for someone to access the Queen's bag. The guest list would need to be thoroughly investigated, along with the catering staff and hotel employees who had access to the dining area. Marcus contacted his technical specialist, Sergeant David Mills, who arrived within minutes carrying a sophisticated scanner designed to analyze electronic devices. Mills was the palace's expert on surveillance equipment and counterintelligence measures, having trained with various international security agencies. "What have we got, Captain?" Mills asked, examining the device with professional interest. "High-end listening equipment found in the Queen's personal handbag," Marcus explained. "I need a complete analysis. Can you determine its capabilities, range, and possibly its origin?" Mills studied the device through a magnifying glass, noting its construction and components. This is definitely top-tier surveillance gear, Captain. Based on the antenna configuration and size, I'd estimate it has a range of about half a mile. It's designed for real-time audio transmission, probably to a nearby receiver. How long could it have been active? Marcus asked. The battery life on something this sophisticated could be anywhere from 48 to 72 hours depending on usage, Mills replied. If it was planted recently, it might still be transmitting. This revelation sent a chill through Marcus. If the device was still active, someone could have been listening to the Queen's private conversations for days. The security implications were enormous, especially considering the sensitive nature of many royal discussions. Marcus immediately ordered a complete sweep of the palace and surrounding grounds to detect any possible receivers or additional surveillance equipment. He also activated protocols to secure all electronic communications and implement enhanced counter-surveillance measures. In the blue drawing room, Queen Isabella sat in her favorite armchair, her usual regal composure slightly shaken by the morning's events. Lieutenant Chen stood nearby, maintaining a respectful distance while ensuring the Queen's safety and privacy. Lieutenant, in all my years as Queen, I have never faced such an accusation, Isabella said quietly. Someone has deliberately planted that device in my possession, but I cannot fathom who would do such a thing or why. Who had served in the Royal Protection Unit for 8 years, had developed tremendous respect for Queen Isabella. Your Majesty, Captain Thompson, and the entire security team believe in your innocence. We're treating this as a serious security breach, not as any wrongdoing on your part. The Queen nodded gratefully. I've been thinking about my recent activities, trying to remember anything unusual. Yesterday's charity luncheon was quite crowded, and I did meet several new people. There was one gentleman in particular who seemed overly interested in my work with children's charities. This caught Chen's attention immediately. Can you describe this person, Your Majesty? He was perhaps 50 years old, well-dressed, with graying hair and a slight accent I couldn't quite place. He introduced himself as Mr. Jonathan Blackwood, claiming to represent a foundation interested in supporting children's causes. He was very charming, but asked surprisingly detailed questions about my hospital visits and the children I meet. Chen made detailed notes about this encounter. A stranger showing unusual interest in the Queen's charitable activities, particularly those involving children, raised immediate red flags. Such information could be valuable to someone planning to harm the Queen or the children she visited. Meanwhile, Marcus was coordinating with various departments to piece together the investigation. The palace's CCTV footage from the past week was being reviewed, guest lists from recent events were being compiled, and background checks were being initiated on anyone who had come into contact with the Queen. The technical analysis of the listening device was revealing more disturbing information. Mills discovered that the device was equipped with a sophisticated encryption system, suggesting it was intended for professional intelligence gathering rather than simple eavesdropping. Captain, Mills reported, this equipment is military grade. It's not something you can buy online or at an electronics store. Whoever planted this has significant resources and technical expertise. Marcus felt the gravity of the situation intensifying. The involvement of professional-grade surveillance equipment suggested this was not a random act or simple criminal activity. It implied a well-planned operation with serious intent. The investigation was expanding rapidly, involving multiple agencies and departments. The palace's chief intelligence officer, Director James Morrison, arrived to coordinate with external security services. The potential threat to national security was becoming increasingly apparent. As the morning progressed, more pieces of the puzzle began emerging. The guest list from yesterday's charity luncheon revealed several attendees whose backgrounds couldn't be immediately verified. The hotel's security footage was being analyzed, and staff members were being interviewed. But the most troubling discovery came when Mills detected faint traces of additional electronic activity in the Queen's handbag. Further scanning revealed microscopic residue, suggesting that other devices might have been present recently, but had since been removed. Director Morrison arrived at the palace with a small team of intelligence specialists, their faces grave with the understanding of the potential implications. As they gathered in the secure conference room adjacent to the blue drawing room, Marcus briefed them on all the discoveries made so far. The sophistication of this operation suggests we're dealing with either a foreign intelligence service or a highly organized criminal network, Morrison stated after reviewing the evidence. The timing is particularly concerning, given the upcoming state visit from the Scandinavian delegation next week. Marcus had been thinking along the same lines. The Queen's schedule for the following week included several high-level diplomatic meetings, including private discussions about trade agreements and security cooperation. Information gathered from surveillance could be incredibly valuable to rival nations or business interests. We need to examine every possible angle, Marcus said. I've been thinking about the mysterious Mr. Blackwood from yesterday's charity luncheon. His interest in the Queen's hospital visit seems too specific to be coincidental. Morrison nodded. I'll have my team run a complete background check on anyone using that name. Meanwhile, we need to consider the possibility that this is part of a larger operation. One listening device could mean there are others we haven't found yet. Queen Isabella, who had been listening from the adjoining room, knocked gently and entered. Despite the morning's events, she maintained her dignified bearing, though Marcus could see the stress in her eyes. "Gentlemen, I hope you don't mind my joining you," she said. "This concerns my safety and the security of the Crown. I believe I can provide valuable insight into recent events." Morrison stood respectfully. "Your Majesty, your perspective would indeed be helpful. Can you think of anyone who might have a motive to spy on you? Perhaps someone who has expressed unusual interest in your activities or asked probing questions?" The Queen settled into a chair, her expression thoughtful. "Over the past month, there have been several instances that, in hindsight, seem suspicious. About 3 weeks ago, I received an unexpected visit from a journalist named Elena Rodriguez, claiming to write a feature article about modern monarchy. Her questions were quite intrusive, focusing heavily on my daily routines and security arrangements. Marcus made a note to investigate this journalist immediately. "Did she have proper credentials, Your Majesty?" "She presented credentials from European Royal Weekly magazine, and my private secretary verified them at the time. However, she seemed more interested in operational details than in the human interest story she claimed to be writing." Morrison exchanged a meaningful look with Marcus. Journalists were often used as covers for intelligence operations, as their profession provided legitimate reasons for asking detailed questions and gaining access to high-profile individuals. "There's something else," the Queen continued. "Last Friday, during my visit to the Children's Hospital, one of the nurses mentioned that someone had been asking questions about my visits. A man claiming to be from a medical research foundation wanted to know about my interactions with the children and how often I visited specific wards. This information made Marcus increasingly uncomfortable. Someone was clearly conducting surveillance on the Queen's activities, gathering detailed intelligence about her routines and the people she interacted with. The pattern suggested a well-coordinated intelligence operation. Lieutenant Chen entered the room with an urgent expression. "Captain, we've discovered something significant. The hotel security footage from yesterday's charity luncheon shows the mysterious Mr. Blackwood in close proximity to the Queen's table when she briefly left to speak with the event organizers." The group gathered around Chen's tablet as she displayed the relevant footage. The video clearly showed a well-dressed man matching the Queen's description of Blackwood, approaching her table and lingering near her handbag for approximately 30 seconds before moving away. Casually, "That's him," Queen Isabella confirmed. "And yes, I remember stepping away to speak with Mrs. Hartford about the hospital's new pediatric wing. My handbag was left on the table during that conversation." Morrison studied the footage carefully. The timing is perfect for planting a device. He approaches the table, creates a brief distraction by pretending to examine the floral centerpiece, and has enough time to place something in the bag without drawing attention. Marcus felt pieces of the puzzle beginning to fit together, but new questions were arising just as quickly. Why would someone want to spy on the Queen's charitable activities? What possible intelligence value could conversations with sick children provide? The answer came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Foster, who had been quietly observing the investigation, suddenly spoke up with obvious reluctance. "Your Majesty, I hesitate to mention this, but last week you received that confidential briefing about the proposed Children's Medical Research Initiative, the one involving significant government funding and international partnerships." Queen Isabella's expression grew serious. "Of course. The Prime Minister briefed me on the new Children's Hospital Network project. It involves nearly £2 billion in government investment and partnerships with pharmaceutical companies, from several countries. Morrison immediately understood the implications. That kind of information would be incredibly valuable to competing pharmaceutical companies or foreign governments looking to secure those contracts for their own industries. Your conversations about children's health care could inadvertently reveal sensitive details about the government's plans. The investigation was taking on a much larger scope than initially imagined. What had begun as a security breach involving the Queen was now revealed to be potential industrial espionage with international implications. Marcus ordered additional security sweeps of all locations the Queen had visited in recent weeks. He also requested complete background investigations on every person she had interacted with, no matter how briefly or seemingly innocent the encounter. As the investigation expanded, more troubling evidence emerged. The technical analysis revealed that the listening device had been manufactured by a company that primarily supplied intelligence agencies and military organizations. Only a limited number of these devices had been produced, making it possible to trace their distribution. Mills reported his findings with obvious concern. "Captain, according to the manufacturer's records, only 12 of these specific devices were ever made. 10 were sold to various government agencies. 1 was retained for testing purposes, and 1 was reported stolen from a secure facility in Geneva 6 months ago." The theft in Geneva added an international dimension to the investigation. Morrison immediately contacted Interpol and Swiss authorities to gather more information about the stolen device and any related criminal activities. While the investigation continued, Queen Isabella insisted on maintaining her scheduled hospital visit, despite Marcus's strong objections. "The children are expecting me, Captain. I will not allow criminals to disrupt my duties to those who need support most." After considerable discussion and the implementation of extraordinary security measures, Marcus reluctantly agreed to the modified visit. However, he insisted on additional protection officers, complete electronic surveillance of the route and hospital, and the presence of plainclothes agents throughout the facility. The hospital visit proceeded under unprecedented security, but Queen Isabella maintained her warm, caring demeanor with the children, never allowing them to sense the tension surrounding the day's events. Marcus watched carefully for any suspicious activity or individuals who might be conducting continued surveillance. During the visit, Marcus received an urgent call from Morrison. "Captain, we've identified the journalist Elena Rodriguez. She doesn't work for European Royal Weekly magazine. In fact, no such publication exists. The credentials were expertly forged." This revelation confirmed that the Queen had been targeted by a sophisticated intelligence operation involving multiple false identities and coordinated surveillance activities. The scope and professionalism of the operation suggested significant resources and expertise. As they prepared to leave the hospital, Marcus noticed a photographer across the street who seemed to be taking an unusual number of pictures. While it wasn't uncommon for media to photograph royal visits, something about this individual's behavior seemed suspicious. The photographer was using a telephoto lens and appeared more interested in the security arrangements than in capturing images of the Queen's charitable work. Marcus discreetly alerted his team to observe the individual while maintaining normal departure procedures. The photographer across from the hospital disappeared into the crowd before Marcus's team could approach him, but not before Officer Rebecca Martinez managed to capture several clear images of the individual using her concealed camera. The man appeared to be in his 40s, with distinctive facial features that would be useful for identification purposes. Back at the palace, the investigation had taken on the characteristics of a full-scale intelligence operation. Morrison had established a temporary command center in one of the secure conference rooms, with multiple computer terminals displaying various databases, surveillance feeds, and evidence analysis. "Captain Thompson," Morrison called as Marcus returned from the hospital visit, "we've made significant progress. The fake journalist Elena Rodriguez has been identified as Elena Kozlov, a former Russian intelligence operative who supposedly retired from active service 3 years ago." Marcus felt his blood run cold. Former intelligence operatives rarely truly retired. They simply changed employers or became freelance contractors. Kozlov's involvement suggested this operation had professional backing with significant resources. "What do we know about her current activities?" Marcus asked. "She's been linked to several industrial espionage cases across Europe over the past 2 years," Morrison replied. always targeting government officials or business leaders involved in major international contracts. Her specialty appears to be long-term surveillance operations designed to gather intelligence about upcoming business deals or policy decisions. Queen Isabella, who had been briefed on these developments, expressed her growing concern. This means my conversations about the Children's Hospital project may have compromised sensitive government negotiations. The pharmaceutical partnerships alone involve companies from 6 different countries. The implications were staggering. If Kozlov and her associates had been monitoring the Queen's activities for weeks or months, they could have gathered extensive intelligence about government plans, diplomatic negotiations, and business strategies worth billions of pounds. Mills approached with another disturbing discovery. Captain, I found evidence of additional surveillance equipment that was likely planted and removed recently. Traces of adhesive on the Queen's reading glasses suggest a micro camera was attached and later removed. This revelation meant the surveillance operation was even more extensive than initially believed. Not only had conversations been monitored, but visual intelligence had been gathered as well. The Queen's private meetings, confidential documents, and personal interactions had potentially been recorded and transmitted to unknown parties. How long could such devices have been in place? Marcus asked. Based on the adhesive residue patterns, I estimate they were active for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer. Mills replied. The technology involved is extremely sophisticated, designed to be virtually undetectable during normal use. Morrison coordinated with international intelligence agencies to track Kozlov's recent movements and identify her known associates. The investigation revealed a network of individuals operating across multiple countries, suggesting a well-funded organization with extensive resources. Lieutenant Chen burst into the command center with urgent news. Captain, we've identified the photographer from outside the hospital. His name is Viktor Petrov, and he's been flagged by multiple European security agencies as a surveillance specialist working with organized crime syndicates. The pieces of the puzzle were forming a picture of a sophisticated intelligence network targeting the British government through surveillance of royal family members. The Queen's charitable activities had provided perfect cover for gathering information about sensitive government projects. We need to consider the possibility that other members of the royal family are being targeted as well, Morrison stated. If they're monitoring Queen Isabella's activities, they may have similar operations focused on other senior royals. Marcus immediately initiated security reviews for all members of the royal family, implementing enhanced counter-surveillance measures and conducting thorough sweeps of their personal belongings and frequently visited locations. As the investigation deepened, a pattern emerged that troubled Marcus greatly. The surveillance operation appeared to have been specifically timed to coincide with the government's announcement of the Children's Hospital project. Someone had advanced knowledge of the Queen's involvement and had positioned assets to gather intelligence at precisely the right moment. This suggests we may have a leak within the government or palace staff, Marcus told Morrison privately. The timing is too precise to be coincidental. Morrison nodded grimly. I've been thinking the same thing. We need to examine everyone who had advance knowledge of the Queen's briefing about the hospital project. The list of individuals with such access was relatively small but included several high-ranking government officials, senior palace staff members, and advisors involved in the project's development. Each person would need to be thoroughly investigated, a process that could take weeks and might damage relationships with trusted colleagues. Queen Isabella called Marcus to her private office that evening, her expression reflecting the strain of the day's revelations. Captain, I've been thinking about something that might be important. 3 weeks ago, I received a call from someone claiming to be from the Prime Minister's office, asking me to confirm details about my hospital visit schedule. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Did you verify the caller's identity, Your Majesty? I asked to call back through the official number, but the caller said it was urgent and that the Prime Minister needed the information for a security briefing. Looking back, I realize I should have been more cautious. This phone call could have provided the intelligence network with detailed advance information about the Queen's movements, allowing them to position surveillance assets and plan their operations accordingly. The caller had likely used social engineering techniques to extract information by creating a sense of urgency and authority. Can you remember exactly what information you provided? Marcus asked. I confirmed my hospital visit schedule for the following 2 weeks, including specific times and which wards I plan to visit. I also mentioned the charity luncheon and my meeting with Lady Westbrook. Marcus realized that this single phone call had provided the surveillance network with everything they needed to plan their operation. The timing of device placement, the selection of surveillance locations, and the coordination of multiple operatives all stemmed from information obtained through this deceptive phone call. Morrison's team traced the phone call through telecommunications records, discovering it had originated from a burner phone purchased with cash in central London. The phone had been used only twice, once to call the Queen and once to contact an untraceable number in Eastern Europe. The investigation was revealing the sophisticated nature of the operation, but it was also raising questions about the ultimate objectives. Gathering intelligence about children's hospital projects seemed elaborate for simple industrial espionage, suggesting there might be additional motives or targets. Late that evening, Marcus received an encrypted message from Morrison containing disturbing new intelligence. International security agencies had identified similar surveillance operations targeting government officials in France, Germany, and Sweden, all involving the same network of operatives. "This is much larger than we initially realized," Morrison explained during an emergency briefing. "The network appears to be conducting coordinated intelligence gathering across multiple countries, focusing on officials involved in major international projects. The European scope of the operation suggested it was either state-sponsored or organized by a criminal syndicate with significant resources and international connections. The targeting of multiple countries indicated the intelligence being gathered had value beyond simple business competition." As the first day of investigation concluded, Marcus reflected on how quickly a routine security check had evolved into an international intelligence crisis. The discovery of the listening device in Queen Isabella's handbag had uncovered a sophisticated surveillance network that threatened national security and international relations. The investigation was far from over, and Marcus knew that the most dangerous phase might be yet to come. If the surveillance network realized their operation had been discovered, they might attempt to eliminate evidence or accelerate whatever plans they had been developing based on the intelligence they had gathered. The second day of investigation began with an urgent call from Interpol headquarters in Lyon. Agent Marie Dubois, a specialist in international organized crime, had been monitoring the case and had critical information to share with Morrison's team. "Director Morrison," Agent Dubois explained via secure video conference, "we believe you've uncovered part of Operation Golden Thread, a sophisticated intelligence network we've been tracking for 8 months. The surveillance of Queen Isabella appears to be connected to a much larger scheme, involving the manipulation of international pharmaceutical markets." Marcus joined the conference call, immediately understanding the gravity of the situation. If the surveillance was part of a market manipulation scheme, the implications extended far beyond simple espionage into the realm of international financial crime. "The network has been gathering intelligence about government healthcare initiatives across multiple countries," Dubois continued. "They appear to be using this information to manipulate stock prices of pharmaceutical companies and medical device manufacturers through carefully timed trades and media leaks. This explanation suddenly made the surveillance of Queen Isabella's charitable activities much more significant. Her conversations about the Children's Hospital project could have provided insider information about which companies would receive lucrative government contracts, information worth millions in illegal trading profits. Morrison asked the crucial question: "How extensive is this network and what are their next likely moves?" "We estimate the network includes at least 20 operatives across 7 countries," Dubois replied. "Based on similar operations, they typically conclude their intelligence gathering phase with a major market manipulation event, then disappear until the next operation." Marcus felt a sense of urgency building. If the network was preparing for a major market manipulation event, they might be planning to use whatever intelligence they had gathered about the Queen's activities to execute large-scale illegal trades. "Agent Dubois, do we have any intelligence about when they might make their move?" Marcus asked. "Our analysis suggests they're waiting for the official government announcement about the Children's Hospital project, which is scheduled for next Friday. That announcement will likely cause significant movement in pharmaceutical stock prices, providing the perfect cover for their illegal activities. This Timeline gave Marcus and his team less than a week to prevent a potentially massive financial crime that could destabilize international markets and compromise the integrity of government healthcare initiatives. Queen Isabella, who had been briefed on these developments, requested a private meeting with Marcus. Her expression showed a mixture of determination and concern as she outlined her thoughts about the situation. "Captain, I've been considering our options and I believe we may be able to use their surveillance against them," she said thoughtfully. "If they're still monitoring my activities, we could potentially feed them false information to disrupt their operation." Marcus was impressed by the Queen's strategic thinking but concerned about the risks involved. "Your Majesty, that would essentially make you an active participant in a counterintelligence operation. The dangers could be considerable. The dangers of allowing this network to succeed are greater," the Queen replied firmly. "If they manipulate the pharmaceutical markets, it could jeopardize funding for children's healthcare projects across multiple countries. I cannot allow my unwitting participation in their surveillance to harm the very children I'm trying to help." After extensive discussion with Morrison and security experts from various agencies, a carefully planned counter-operation was developed. Queen Isabella would participate in staged conversations and activities designed to provide the surveillance network with false information about the timing and details of the government announcement. The plan required extreme precision and coordination. Mills would monitor for any active surveillance devices, while Chen and her team would track known operatives to determine if they were still conducting surveillance. Meanwhile, Morrison would coordinate with international agencies to monitor financial markets for suspicious trading activity. The key is to make the false information believable while ensuring the Queen's safety, Marcus explained during the operational briefing. "We'll stage conversations suggesting the government announcement has been delayed by 2 weeks, potentially causing the network to miss their intended trading window." Lieutenant Chen had been conducting surveillance on known associates of Kozlov and Petrov, discovering that they were still operating in London, despite the previous day's discoveries. This suggested they either didn't know their operation had been compromised, or were confident enough in their methods to continue regardless. "We've identified at least 3 additional operatives," Chen reported. "They're using sophisticated counter-surveillance techniques, but our long-range monitoring has tracked their movements to a rented office space in Canary Wharf. The location in London's financial district confirmed the operations focus on market manipulation rather than traditional espionage." Morrison immediately coordinated with financial authorities to monitor trading activity originating from the area. Mills had made a breakthrough in analyzing the surveillance technology used by the network. "Captain, I've discovered that their listening devices are connected to a local server that processes and transmits the intelligence in real time. If we can locate that server, we might be able to monitor what information they're receiving and possibly inject our own false data." This technical insight provided an opportunity to turn the network's sophisticated surveillance system against them. By feeding false information directly into their intelligence stream, the counter-operation could be more convincing and effective. The first phase of the counter-operation began that afternoon. Queen Isabella participated in a staged phone conversation with a fictional government advisor, discussing supposed delays in the hospital project announcement due to unexpected regulatory complications. Mills monitored electronic communications from the suspected server location, detecting increased activity immediately following the staged conversation. The network was clearly still intercepting and processing intelligence from their surveillance of the Queen. "They're taking the bait," Mills reported with satisfaction. "Communication volume to Eastern Europe has increased significantly since the staged call." Morrison coordinated with financial intelligence units across multiple countries to monitor for any unusual trading activity in pharmaceutical stocks. If the network believed the government announcement had been delayed, they might adjust their trading strategies accordingly, potentially revealing their market positions and methods. As the counter-operation progressed, Agent Dubois provided updates on surveillance activities in other countries. "We're seeing similar staged operations being conducted in France and Germany," she reported. "It appears the network is rushing to confirm information across multiple sources before making their financial moves." The international coordination was revealing the true scope of the criminal operation. The network had invested significant resources in surveillance operations across multiple countries, suggesting they were planning market manipulation on an unprecedented scale. Queen Isabella proved to be remarkably effective in the counterintelligence role, delivering stage conversations with natural conviction while maintaining her regular schedule to avoid suspicion. Her experience in public speaking and diplomatic interactions served her well in the deceptive operation. On the third day, Mills detected a significant change in the network's electronic communications. "Captain, they're shifting their operational focus. Message traffic suggests they're preparing to conclude their intelligence gathering phase and transition to the financial manipulation stage." This development indicated the counter-operation was working, but it also meant the network might be preparing to execute their illegal trades based on the false information they had received. Morrison coordinated with financial authorities to be ready to trace and intercept any suspicious trading activity. Chen's surveillance team reported that several known operatives had changed their patterns, with some appearing to prepare for departure from London. This suggested the network was either concluding their operation or preparing to relocate based on the false intelligence they had received. "We may have successfully disrupted their timeline," Marcus told Morrison, "but we need to be prepared for the possibility that they'll adapt quickly once they realize they've been deceived." The counter-operation had created a complex game of strategic deception, with both sides attempting to outmaneuver the other using intelligence and misinformation. The stakes were enormous, involving not only the security of the royal family but also the integrity of international financial markets and healthcare funding that could affect thousands of children. On Thursday morning, exactly 1 week after the discovery of the listening device, Mills detected urgent encrypted communications emanating from the Canary Wharf office location. The message traffic indicated the criminal network was preparing for immediate action, suggesting they had discovered the deception or were operating under extreme time pressure. "Captain, they're activating emergency protocols," Mills reported with obvious concern. "The communication patterns match those used by intelligence networks when operations are compromised." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. If the criminals knew they had been deceived, they might attempt to execute their financial manipulation scheme immediately, using whatever intelligence they believed to be accurate. Alternatively, they might choose to eliminate evidence and witnesses before disappearing. Morrison received an urgent call from Agent Dubois in Lyon. "Director, we're seeing coordinated movement across all monitored locations. The network appears to be executing a contingency plan we weren't aware of." The situation was rapidly spiraling beyond the scope of the counter-operation. Marcus immediately ordered enhanced security for Queen Isabella and all royal family members, while Morrison activated emergency protocols with financial authorities across multiple countries. Queen Isabella, demonstrating remarkable composure under pressure, requested to speak with Marcus privately. "Captain, I've been thinking about something that might be crucial. During yesterday's stage conversation, I mentioned specific pharmaceutical companies that would supposedly benefit from the delayed announcement. If the criminals are rushing to execute their plan, they might be targeting those exact companies." This insight was brilliant. By analyzing which companies the Queen had mentioned in the false information, authorities could predict and potentially intercept the network's trading activities. Marcus immediately relayed this information to Morrison and financial intelligence agencies. Chen's surveillance team reported alarming developments from their monitoring of known operatives. "Captain, Victor Petrov and 2 associates have abandoned their usual locations and are moving toward the financial district. They appear to be carrying sophisticated electronic equipment. The convergence of criminal operatives on London's financial center, combined with the urgent communications traffic, suggested the network was preparing for a major operation." Morrison coordinated with city police and financial security forces to monitor the situation. Mills made a critical discovery while monitoring the network's electronic communications. "Captain, I've intercepted planning documents suggesting they're not just targeting pharmaceutical stocks. They're planning to manipulate currency markets by creating false rumors about the British government's financial stability." This revelation transformed the situation, from corporate crime to potential economic terrorism. If successful, the network's manipulation could destabilize the British pound and create international financial chaos, affecting millions of people beyond the pharmaceutical industry. They're planning to use the Queen's supposed concerns about healthcare funding to suggest the government is facing a budget crisis, Mills explained. The false intelligence we provided has been incorporated into a larger disinformation campaign. Queen Isabella's expression grew grave as she understood the full implications. They're using my voice and reputation to attack the nation's economic stability. This has gone far beyond simple market manipulation. Morrison activated emergency protocols with the Bank of England and international financial authorities, warning them about the impending attack on currency markets. Preparations were made to counter false information and stabilize trading if manipulation attempts were detected. The critical moment arrived when Mills detected the activation of sophisticated broadcasting equipment near the London Stock Exchange. Captain, they're preparing to transmit what appears to be fabricated audio recordings, presumably using voice samples gathered from their surveillance of the Queen. The criminals had been using their surveillance not just to gather intelligence about government plans, but to collect voice samples that could be used to create convincing fake recordings. These fabricated audio clips would be used to spread false information about government financial problems. We need to intercept that transmission immediately, Marcus declared, coordinating with technical specialists and law enforcement agencies to locate and neutralize the broadcasting equipment. Chen's team had tracked Petrov and his associates to a building adjacent to the financial district, where they appeared to be setting up transmission equipment on the roof. Captain, we have visual confirmation of the broadcasting setup. Request permission to intercept. Marcus authorized the operation while ensuring Queen Isabella's safety through enhanced security measures. The timing was critical. If the fake recordings were broadcast during active trading hours, they could cause immediate and severe market disruption. Morrison coordinated the multi-agency response, involving specialist units from the police, financial authorities, and intelligence services. All units, this is a coordinated operation to prevent economic terrorism. Intercept all transmission equipment and apprehend the operatives. The rooftop confrontation was swift but intense. Chen's team, supported by specialist tactical officers, successfully neutralized the broadcasting equipment just minutes before the scheduled transmission. Petrov and 2 associates were arrested, along with sophisticated recording and transmission equipment. Meanwhile, Mills had traced the network's command center to the Canary Wharf office location, where additional operatives were preparing backup plans for market manipulation. Captain, they have a secondary operation involving direct computer intrusion into trading systems. The simultaneous operations required precise coordination to prevent any part of the criminal network from executing their plans. Morrison's team successfully intercepted the computer intrusion attempt while financial authorities implemented emergency security protocols. Queen Isabella watched the unfolding operations from the secure command center, her relief evident as each phase of the criminal plan was neutralized. Captain Thompson, I want to thank you and your entire team. Your dedication has prevented what could have been a catastrophic attack on our nation's economy. As the immediate crisis was resolved, the full scope of the criminal network's ambitions became clear. They had planned to use fabricated audio recordings of Queen Isabella expressing concerns about government finances to trigger panic selling of British pounds and government bonds. The psychological impact of hearing the Queen apparently discuss financial problems would have been enormous, potentially causing international investors to lose confidence in British economic stability. The criminals would have profited from short positions taken in advance of their manipulation attempts. Agent Dubois confirmed that similar operations had been intercepted in France and Germany, revealing the international coordination of the attack. The network was planning simultaneous manipulation of multiple European currencies, which could have triggered a broader financial crisis. Mills's analysis of the seized equipment revealed the sophisticated nature of the voice synthesis technology used to create fake recordings. Captain, the audio quality was nearly perfect. Without prior knowledge of the fabrication, these recordings would have been extremely convincing. The investigation had uncovered not just a criminal network, but a new form of economic warfare using advanced technology and psychological manipulation. The implications extended far beyond the immediate threat, raising questions about the security of public communications in the digital age. Morrison coordinated with international agencies to track down remaining members of the network and identify their financial backers. This level of sophistication and coordination suggests state sponsorship or extremely well-funded criminal organizations. As evening approached, Marcus reflected on the extraordinary week that had begun with a routine security check and evolved into preventing an international economic attack. Queen Isabella's courage and intelligence had been instrumental in the successful counter-operation. 2 weeks after the dramatic intervention that prevented the economic attack, Marcus stood in the same security checkpoint where the entire crisis had begun. The morning sun cast familiar shadows across the marble floors, but the atmosphere was markedly different. Enhanced security protocols were now permanently in place, and every member of the Royal Protection Team carried advanced counter-surveillance equipment. Queen Isabella arrived for her regular Thursday hospital visit, her burgundy leather handbag in hand as always. However, this time, the bag contained sophisticated counter-surveillance devices developed by Mills and his technical team, ensuring that any future surveillance attempts would be immediately detected. "Good morning, Captain Thompson," the Queen said with a warm smile. "I trust today's security screening will be more routine than our last memorable encounter." Marcus smiled in return, still amazed by the Queen's ability to find humor in what had been an extraordinarily dangerous situation. "Indeed, Your Majesty, though I must admit, routine has taken on a whole new meaning for our security operations." The investigation's conclusion had revealed the full extent of the criminal network's activities. Elena Kozlov, Viktor Petrov, and 12 associates across 7 countries had been arrested and charged with economic terrorism, international fraud, and numerous other crimes. The network's financial backing had been traced to a consortium of corrupt businessmen and rogue intelligence, operatives seeking to profit from economic instability. Morrison entered the checkpoint area with final reports from the international investigation. "Captain, Agent Dubois has confirmed that all remaining network members have been apprehended. The Swiss authorities have also recovered the stolen surveillance equipment and identified the corrupt officials who facilitated the theft. The scope of the criminal operation had been staggering. Financial analysis revealed that successful execution of their market manipulation scheme could have generated illegal profits exceeding £5 billion while causing economic damage in the tens of billions across multiple countries. Mills approached with his technical assessment of the enhanced security measures now in place throughout the palace. "Captain, the new counter-surveillance systems are operating perfectly. We can now detect any electronic surveillance attempt within a quarter-mile radius of the palace grounds. The technological upgrades extended beyond simple detection equipment. The palace now employed sophisticated signal jamming capabilities, voice authentication systems, and real-time communication monitoring to prevent similar infiltration attempts." Queen Isabella had insisted on continuing her charitable activities without significant changes to her schedule, refusing to allow criminals to disrupt her work with sick children. However, she had readily accepted enhanced security measures and participated in developing new protocols for protecting sensitive communications. "The children at the hospital have been asking about our adventure," she told Marcus with amusement. "Of course, they only know that there was some excitement involving detectives and secret agents. They find it all quite thrilling." Chen, who had been promoted to Deputy Chief of Security following her exceptional performance during the crisis, provided updates on the ongoing security enhancements. "Captain, we've completed training programs for all royal family members on recognizing and reporting potential surveillance activities. The protocols are now integrated into their daily routines." The experience had fundamentally changed how the Royal Protection Unit approached security challenges. The assumption that threats would always be direct and obvious had been replaced by awareness that sophisticated criminals could exploit seemingly innocent activities for dangerous purposes. Morrison had established permanent liaison arrangements with international financial intelligence agencies, ensuring that future threats to economic stability would be detected and countered more rapidly. The network we uncovered was just one of several similar organizations operating globally. Our success here has provided valuable intelligence for preventing future attacks. Agent Dubois had traveled from Lyon to personally thank the team for their work and to establish ongoing cooperation agreements. "Captain Thompson, your team's quick thinking and professional response prevented what could have been the most sophisticated economic attack in modern history." The international community is deeply grateful. The formal recognition came in various forms. Marcus received commendations from multiple government agencies and international organizations. Queen Isabella had personally recommended him for the highest honors available to civilian security professionals. However, the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. During her hospital visit that Thursday, Queen Isabella was greeted by a group of children who had created handmade thank you cards for the detective who protected our queen. 8-year-old Emma, a patient recovering from surgery, presented Marcus with a drawing depicting him as a superhero with a badge and cape. "Thank you for keeping our queen safe so she can still visit us," Emma said with the earnest sincerity that only children possess. Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion as he accepted the drawing. All the sophisticated technology, international cooperation, and professional recognition paled in comparison to the simple gratitude of a sick child who understood that someone had worked to protect the person who brought her comfort and hope. Mrs. Foster, who had been deeply affected by discovering how close the criminals had come to succeeding, had become one of the most vigilant members of the expanded security awareness program. "Captain, I've developed new procedures for monitoring all communications and contacts involving Her Majesty's schedule. Nothing like this will catch us off guard again." The Children's Hospital Project, which had inadvertently become the focus of the criminal surveillance, proceeded successfully with enhanced security measures. The official government announcement had been made without incident, and construction of the new facilities was progressing ahead of schedule. Mills had become something of a celebrity within international security circles for his technical innovations during the crisis. "Captain, I've been invited to present our counter-surveillance techniques at conferences in 12 countries. The methods we developed are being adopted by security agencies worldwide." Queen Isabella had used her experience to advocate for enhanced cybersecurity measures across government operations. This incident has shown how criminals can exploit even charitable activities for dangerous purposes. We must be vigilant in protecting all aspects of public service from such threats. As the weeks passed, the extraordinary events began to settle into the regular rhythms of palace life. The enhanced security measures became routine, and the additional protocols were integrated seamlessly into daily operations. Marcus often reflected on how a simple security screening had evolved into preventing an international crisis. The experience had reinforced his belief in the importance of thorough, professional security practices and the value of treating every anomaly as potentially significant. The investigation had also demonstrated the power of international cooperation in addressing sophisticated criminal threats. The network's global reach had required coordinated responses across multiple countries, establishing relationships that would prove valuable for future security challenges. Queen Isabella continued her charitable work with renewed appreciation for the security that protected her ability to serve others. "Captain Thompson," she said as they concluded another successful hospital visit, "I've learned that true security isn't just about protecting individuals. It's about preserving the ability to do good in the world." Marcus nodded, understanding that their success had been measured not just in preventing financial crime, but in ensuring that important charitable work could continue safely. The children who relied on Queen Isabella's visits represented the real victory in their battle against the criminal network. As they returned to the palace that Thursday afternoon, Marcus reflected on the lessons learned from the crisis. Vigilance, professionalism, international cooperation, and the courage to act decisively had combined to prevent what could have been a catastrophic attack on economic stability. The burgundy leather handbag that had inadvertently revealed the criminal surveillance now served as a symbol of how thorough security practices could uncover and defeat even the most sophisticated threats. More importantly, it represented the dedication of security professionals worldwide to protecting the institutions and individuals that serve the public good. In the end, the discovery of a simple listening device had led to dismantling an international criminal network and preventing economic terrorism that could have affected millions of people. Marcus knew that such vigilance would always be necessary to protect democratic institutions and the charitable works that depend on them for support and security.